Good morning. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. When we scheduled this, I was afraid you'd all be looking for someplace to, play golf or do something fun. So I scheduled up this beautiful rainy day so you'd all show up. My name is Nathan Fennessy. I'm an at-large city councilor. I'm a member of the Beaver Meadow Advisory Committee and a member of the Recreation and Parks Advisory Committee. And I have the wonderful task of being the chairman of the ad hoc building committee that's been put together. Members of the committee are to my right here. We've got Tom Croto, Linda Matledge, Chris Malevy, also the chair of the Beaver Meadow Advisory Committee, Jen Kretovic, city councilor from Ward 3, a former city councilor over here, Mark Cohen, and of course Candace Bouchard, the ward councilor from Ward 9. So I'm going to turn it over now to Brian. He's going to run the show along with some of our guests here. We look forward to everybody participating. This is going to be a very interactive process so we can hear about what the community is interested in with this potential project with the clubhouse at Beaver Meadow. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning. My name is Brian LeBrun. Everybody hear me? Everybody hear me? My name is Brian LeBrun, and I'm the Deputy City Manager for Finance for the City of Concord, and I also have the pleasure of overseeing the golf course. But I don't want anybody to have the idea that I know anything about golf. That really goes to Phil and Pat. They're the geniuses over there. So, I do want to introduce our design team, HL Turner Group. We have Doug Proctor, who's the principal, and Andrew Weaver, who is the architect working with HL Turner. And then we also have our construction manager. We have Brian Garris over here, and I know that Jeff LeMay is sitting there we go, Jeff's right out here in the audience. So I'd like to just talk a little bit about how did we get to this point this morning. A couple of years ago, we recognized, actually for the past number of years, we've recognized that the building and the parking lot and walkways really needed some work at Beaver Meadow. So we put some money together in one of the budgets that the City Council approved to do some work in the clubhouse. We looked at replacing doors and windows, redoing the bathrooms. So we put that all together. When we went out and got pricing, we recognized that the dollars that we had put together weren't enough. The pricing came back really at almost double what we had allocated. So we went back to City Council and they said, hey, does this really make sense? Let's take a bigger look at this project and see if, does it make sense to rehab what we're doing here or do something a little bit bigger? So the mayor put together a advisory group to take a look at the big picture of Beaver Meadow. This advisory group got together, we did a facility study for Beaver Meadow Clubhouse, the surrounding grounds, the parking lot, things like that. We did some site visits, went to other clubhouses, looked at what other courses were doing, and came back with a recommendation. And the recommendation that the advisory board came to was that we should build a new clubhouse. That's the recommendation that they made to City Council. In this past budget, the City Council allocated some dollars for the design. That's how we got to this right now. In the design phase of this, we went out and did a competitive solicitation for design services. We interviewed a couple of different firms, and then we selected HL Turner Group as the design team. They happen to be a local team. They were the best qualified of the people that we talked to, and that we believe they will do an excellent job in helping us design a new facility. Along with that, the city also put together a competitive solicitation for construction manager services, not just for this project, but for a number of projects that we have throughout the city. In that solicitation, we selected 2 construction managers to work with the city on a variety of projects. One of them was Milestone Construction. In that whole process, we also selected Milestone Construction to work with us on the Beaver Meadow project. So now we have a great team, both local, to help us work on the project. Milestone is here as a pre-construction services part of it. They're going to work together with HL Turner and the advisory group to help us come together with a design that helpfully serves the needs of the community and the golf course overall. And I think that's the important piece that we're looking for this morning. What are the needs of the community and the golf course? And we want to hear from everybody as we get started from this to say, what are you looking for in this too? And that's the important part. what other services, what other things are you looking for in this facility too? So Phil Davis is going to go through the scope of work that we included in the design specifications, and then that'll give you at least a basis for what we were thinking as we went through that. And then we have some other things that H.L. Turner will talk about, and then we'll have people put some dots on boards, and then we'll listen to your comments about what you really want to see. So thank you very much, and again, thanks for being here this morning.
Good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing today? Awesome. So thank you all for coming out. Obviously, you can see there's some huge support and for this activity that we're going to have today. And as we went through the RFQ process, it was really important for the ad hoc building committee that our goal was to remove the existing clubhouse, reconfigure parking lots and walkways. We needed to design a dynamic space that included a golf pro shop, golf simulator wing, maybe some club repair areas, golf storage areas, and maybe even golf cart storage under the building. Design some office spaces for New Hampshire Golf Association, which would also be a tenant agreement in that situation. A restaurant with a sufficient kitchen that can provide for indoor and outdoor spaces. That is also a tenant agreement there as well. A function hall that could hold up to 180 to 200 guests. Space for Nordic skiers, skaters, and snowshoers. Restroom and locker rooms with interior and exterior access. Space for municipal elections, community meetings, and gatherings. An energy efficient build to work towards meeting the city's goals. An efficient flexible floor plan to meet current and future needs, and to modify adjacent infrastructure as needed. Obviously, we would like some nice new signage. If you've ever been to our current building, it's kind of tough to navigate, so making sure that everybody knows where they need to go as well. And I'm going to hand it over to Doug Proctor. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Doug Proctor. You guys can hear me, right? Okay. With the Turner Group. And we also have Andrew Weaver here with Weaver Associate Architects, and he's specializes in golf course clubhouse design, and we brought him in as a consultant. And then other parts of the team are Bill Hickey and Jerry Blanchett are going to share project management on they're with the Turner Group, and they're going to share project management. And we have Doug Broder, who's also with the Turner Group. He's our civil engineer, and Tom Betteridge will be handling mechanical and plumbing engineering. And then we also have on the team Robert White, who will be handling landscape architecture as it will happen around the clubhouse location. And then, as Brian said, we have Milestone on the team. Frank LeMay, Brian Garris, and Jeff LeMay are project managers of that. Brian's here, and Jeff is back there in the corner.
Excuse me.
Yep.
Could they dim the light?
Yeah, can we hit one of those switches in the back? Right there? The other, yeah, flip the other one on. There you go. So, just to give you a little bit, Andrew, I don't know if you want to talk about these two projects a little
Sure.
bit.
Yeah, so I've done a few projects here in New Hampshire. I'm out of Lexington, Massachusetts, but I worked with Doug Holman, who's the owner of Lake Sunapee Country Club. We did a master plan for him years ago, and we identified 2 phases of work for his clubhouse. We've completed phase 1, which you see some pictures of there, the lower left corner and the upper left corner. And just recently in 2022, I finished the Meadowbrook Golf Club in Reading, Massachusetts. And that's about a 15,000 square foot clubhouse with very flexible dining spaces, locker rooms, and administrative offices, and a large commercial kitchen.
And you also did an addition to the Concord Country Club recently, right?
I did.
Okay.
A master plan and 2 phases of work with
Okay.
actually Brian.
Okay. And then just to give you a little bit of experience from the Turner Group, we were the design team for the renovation to this building, and then also the lodge at White Park, the skate house out there. So, you know, the reason we're here is, again, to determine what we want to build. You know, we haven't designed anything, but we're starting the exploratory process to figure out what we want to build, the spaces that we want to build, and then also the different interests that we have out of the site, because it's kind of a rare opportunity with a golf course, because a lot of them are privately owned, to be able to, you know, take public input and what should actually happen on the land and everything. And I think you guys have a real opportunity to create something really special here. And it's special now as well, but we can enhance that by redoing the clubhouse. So, you know, if your interest is golf, cross-country skiing, skating, snowshoeing, recreational opportunities, clubhouse use, you know, what other kind of uses do you see for the clubhouse? Meetings and events, what type of events? You know, or if your interest in being here today is because you're part of the neighborhood around the immediate golf course, or just, you know, just an interested community member. So we just want to hear anything you might have to say. You know, and like I said, this course brings a lot of community value, you know, winter as well as summer recreation. And then you'll see that you got dots on your chair when you came in. So that's something called dotocracy, and you see the boards off here to the side. So when we're leaving today, what I'd like is if you could you have 6 dots, if you could place a dot on the things that you think are the most important to you to see out of this facility at the end. You can use, you know, all 6 dots on one or not, but it kind of gives us an idea of the importance that we're seeing in the community, in addition to what we're going to discuss here today. So just take a little time to do that on your way out. I'd appreciate it. So just to explain design process a little bit, you know, we have the general programming goals, which Brian and Phil went through in the beginning, and the way we proceed with right now is in the yellow. That's where we are right now. That's the pre-design and space programming. So we're going through analyzing the site a little bit, and we're also trying to gather information about the actual spaces that will be in the building and the actual things that will be happening around the building. Later on, and following that, we'll be doing engineering analysis on the site, the parking and deliveries, drainage and stormwater management around the building, and then also preserving views and enhancing the landscape, because right now it's a little ambiguous right around the clubhouse. There are views and everything, but the landscaping's a little ambiguous. And then power and utilities. There's a lot coming down the road to the clubhouse that we want to possibly neaten up. And then following that analysis and this programming, that's when we get into the design and modeling. So that's when we actually start laying out floor plans and developing computer models and generating different options for the building. And that would probably be another meeting when we get into that. And then, you know, of course, construction documentation follows that. So just to... Oh, I'm sorry. People tell me I'm too loud most of the time, so. So we did start with a site analysis, and this is a little farther out view of the site. This is the clubhouse right here. The blue indicates different view corridors from the clubhouse, and there's pretty good view corridors to all the holes and the pond and everything. There are 8 residential properties right in this little node right here, which we're a little concerned about, because we know that we have voluntary parallel parking along that street, and then it also happens out here on tournament days when there's a lot of cars there. So we want to try to do something with the parking to enhance that, so that we don't have that happening, because it's not fair to the neighbors. The driving range is up here. This is the back 9. This is the front 9 down here, just to orient you. And we also look at how the sun travels around. So we have the summer sun rising out here and the sun setting out here, and this is the general path. We have winter sun down here and winter sunset down here. We also have a couple maintenance buildings right here. This is the tent, and pretty much the view corridor, when you look down the road right now, is the tent. You know, that's what you kind of see. And then we have the driving range up here and more residential properties here. A little bit of a close-up is, again, we have the parallel parking happening here and the view corridor. And then these are some of the cart paths and pedestrian paths that are happening. And we have, you know, it's kind of odd. There's a little bit of a parking area here when you come in, and then you don't really see the clubhouse as you come around that turn because of the landscaping and things. And the landscaping, the clubhouse isn't really oriented in a certain direction that makes much sense. There's a viewpoint here from the parking area, and we know that they park tournament carts here, and this is the tent, and then the maintenance areas here, which are pretty visible from the clubhouse, which is something you don't normally see at a golf course. And then we also have the electric service coming in right here, so there's a massive pole with transformers on it there. Anything else that I'm missing, Andrew? And we got the pro shop here on the end. The 18th hole is here, and the 9th hole is right here. So this is where we open it up. If anybody has any comments they want to make or anything they want to promote or discuss, we can start. And I'll be taking notes as we go along.
I'm Jerice Mayers. It is? Okay. I spent 14 years in the restaurant business and have found a lot of, poorly designed restaurants. I think the one thing in your design may be to put a walk-in cooler with doors and a gravity rack for beer, and that way the beer is always rotating and fresh. And also, you could put the drafts on back there. And if you put that right in front of the bar, bartender runs back there, swaps out a draft keg, and there's no time lost. But I think overall, my concern is that it should be a multifunctional facility, especially in the wintertime. It seems like if you have a really good restaurant draw in there and really promote a takeout, and have easy access where people can pick up a takeout, it seems like that would be wonderful if people could say, I don't feel like cooking tonight, I'm just going to run down to the Beaver and pick up something for dinner. If people aren't going to do that now. So I think that's part of it. I think the simulators are a fantastic idea to get it going in the winter. I've been down to Atkinson Country Club, and their driving range is very small, but it's open all year, and it draws money in all year. So, if you had the simulators and a driving range all year, and a good restaurant in there, I think that you'd get a lot more revenue during your off season. During the on season, everything takes care of itself. Golf brings in everything you need. I think that was really the majority of what I wanted to emphasize. And I could also see having like a driving range in front of where you drive in your golf cart.
My comments have to do with the fact that I'm a walker. And if I could have one thing, I would like to see exterior lockers so that I wouldn't have to take my golf cart and golf bags out of my car every day. And along that line, if the clubhouse is oriented, I'd rather have the 10th hole as the first hole, because you get the 15th on the back 9, it's like Heartbreak Hill. So if they reoriented the course, we could walk all 18 easier.
That might be a little beyond the project, but I understand.
I'm a new golfer, and I'm so excited that this is happening so early in my very late started career as a golfer. But I sit on a bunch of boards, or several boards, and we're oftentimes looking for space for fundraising events, and Concord really doesn't have that. And I think the benefit of having the space that you were talking about would be very valuable to the community, valuable to some of the nonprofits that seek to hold events, and I would think would also be a revenue generator. So I think that's an important part that goes beyond the needs of the golfing community.
Can I ask you a quick question?
In terms of events, what kind of sizes or ranges of sizes do you encounter?
Well, there's a fair
Number of people?
Yeah, there's a fair amount for the under, the 75 and under number, but we just held an event for Red River, and we were really hard pressed to find something that would hold 150, 160 people. So when we said 150, that number resonated.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Jerry Eaton. I live at 18 2nd Street, about a 6-iron away from the 4th green. I never tried it because I don't play golf that well. I'm also a Ward 3 ballot clerk, and given the parking at Beaver Meadow School, which is inadequate now, I don't imagine that the voting place is going to ever move to the school. So you should design the space to include space for voting. Currently, we conduct elections outside in the tent, and I'm not looking forward to the next February presidential primary because it's going to be cold out there, and in November we start in the dark and end in the dark, and you have to have your hands uncovered in order to deal with the ballots. So the size of the existing restaurant was not really adequate. The lines went out the door. The size of the voting area under the tent is about right. It shouldn't be too much smaller than what we have there. That uses about 2/3 or to 3/4 of the space under the tent. And that's adequate because people, when they line up, can line up indoors in inclement weather. And at the old place, when there was a busy election, people were lined up outside, and that's not good. I think you should explore funding from the utilities to finance photovoltaics on the roof. If you have a big restaurant, there ought to be solar hot water on the roof as well, so that and for locker rooms and showers. And I think that's all I have to say.
Yeah, I forgot to mention, I'm also a city resident, so I know what you're saying because I vote at the tent.
You're not there for 6 hours.
No, I know that. And recently I got moved to the barn at Bull Meadow, so, yeah, so. But yeah, during COVID, we were all outside voting in the tent, so. Anybody else? One in the back there.
Richard Treckler and my wife Sharon. We live on Beaver Meadow Drive, and of course our concern is the parking because of the overflow you often have for events and special golf days. And we've only noticed one time during this season where they had restricted parking to one side. And I think it can be a danger. You have parking on both sides and difficulty for vehicles to come in. But we know you're aware of the parking needs, but we'd like to express feelings that parking is a major concern if you're increasing the number of people who will be using the facilities. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. I know it's early in the process, but the committees have been doing quite a bit of work. Can you discuss the schedule and the potential footprint of the building, and will it be a half build at a time where you tear down the old one?
Again, we're still early in the phase. I mean, we're in the information gathering phase of design, so we don't really have a schedule blocked out yet, and we don't know exactly how we're going to approach it with the existing building. We have thoughts, but until we actually get some designs going, we don't want to, say something that might be incorrect. So.
So I'm fairly new to Beaver Meadow as a member, and what I've learned there is that the patio is the hub of the place. So if there's a way to keep that patio or something of that nature and make it a little bit more visible to more holes, although that could be dangerous to the golfers for the noise, but be fun for those standing on the patio to see those coming in.
That's a good comment. Thank you.
Hi, thank you so much for setting this up in a space that allows for community collaboration and listening. Really grateful. I'm curious about any attempts to increase accessibility to a resource that we charge people to use. At present, there's lots of folks in our community where accessing this space is not on their radar because there's a cost to utilize it. So I wonder if there's a consideration around fee changes, creating space for free use. Just wanted to, and concerned about the tax impact of what looks to be a very large remodel. So I know that it's very early stages. And that you can't really nail down a perfect number right now, but I'm pretty sure we have a rough idea of the range that we're looking at and what does that mean for a $300,000 home in Concord. What does that mean for tax impact? I'd love to see numbers like that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, obviously, those are questions that we have concern over as well. We don't have those numbers yet to put out. As far as, what does that mean for an average house? There are a lot of factors that will go into that. As far as the free use of space, those are some of the things that, we are looking at, and I know that the City Council looks at very closely. They just did a big fee review this past year and made some significant changes here at the community center for the fees that are charged for use of the spaces. So I'm sure that there's going to be some significant consideration as we get into the space once we determine what types of rooms are actually in the building, and that's really what the determination is going to be. How many rooms, what sizes, and then how is that fee structure going to be? It's hard for me to guess on what it is, but I think if you look at the community center, that might be kind of the roadmap that we might use as a guideline. So, okay.
Can you also include the First Tee program on Saturdays and Sundays after work and the cost for that?
I can, except I don't know anything about it. I'll have to ask Phil to do it. Yes, our First Tee program that is we've been a part of for approximately about 6 years. You can go out as a 17 or under kid with an adult for free after 4 on Saturdays and Sundays at no charge. And we do have Pathways to Golf. That is a current free camp. That is this April vacation. So there's no charge and even lunch provided at the end. So that is this April vacation. 9 to 12, 3 days in a row, 27, 28, 29.
Can you hear me? Okay, can you hear me? Okay, we were just wondering, like, how does this project benefit low-income families, us as kids, people of color, and new American refugees?
I think as we look at, again, the rooms that would be available for folks to be able to use, you know, working with the city council on a fee structure or low fees or no fees, depending on what the city council ultimately decides. You know, I think the pathways to golf that Phil talked about, Saturday and Sunday afternoons for free golf, you know, those are all things that folks can take advantage of. You know, and it doesn't, everybody is entitled to those things. So there's, you know, anybody that wants to play certainly can participate in those types of things. So.
I'm a longtime cross-country skier at Beaver Meadow, and one of the things that I've noticed is there are lots of people that go, and it is free there. But we never really use the clubhouse very much at all. And I don't really know much about the clubhouse. I don't play golf. I just cross-country ski. So somehow if we could bring that into this program, I think you'd recognize some revenue in your off-season that you're potentially missing. I think that would be good for this site. And another thing, as I agree with the statement of photovoltaics. I think that what he's saying there is getting solar panels on the roof. I think that's what I heard, and I've done that at my house, and I enjoy not paying an electric bill, as I've seen electric costs go up quite a bit in the state of New Hampshire. So I think that would be a wise thing to do as you're increasing the size of this structure to make it more economically viable and reduce your forward-looking costs.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to add on to what these amazing young people were saying. They were just kind of asking about the accessibility to new American, low-income, and BIPOC communities in our city of Concord. And I definitely love and hear and appreciate the fact that there's free space over there and free camps for them to do. But the issue becomes transportation. So how do people like over here in the Heights community get over there to go to that camp even? Because I know about, my name is Sharman. I run an organization in Concord called Project Story, which empowers new American youth. And so I'm just wondering, I have so many amazing families and so many amazing kids that I work with who live right here on the Heights. And if we're going to build this beautiful, amazing facility, I would like to figure out how these communities can use and access and even like see it. You know, we're talking about like, can they even get there to see this beautiful place? So that's definitely something that I would like to see. You know, it's definitely an issue because now I'm seeing, in my mind, I'm not seeing a way for them to get there, to use that. So that's great that it's there, but like, how do we get them there? So that's a missing piece. So because that piece is missing, they're not going to get there. Do you see what I'm saying? So even if you go in and even if you go look at these camps and some of the kids said to me, there's very few BIPOC people that go and use this space. And you know, here they are, and maybe they do want to go sign up for the camps, but now they have to get there. And now maybe they're not going to feel totally comfortable because, I don't know, there's just a bunch of different factors. So I feel like that's something as a community that we need to kind of pay attention to and look at, is that this is a beautiful, brilliant project and a very nice thing for the community. But I feel like it needs to be able to be accessed by the entire community. And we have new Americans in our community. We have people of color in our community. We have low-income families in our community. We have refugee families in our community. How are these families going to access and use this space? So please, if somebody else would like to answer that for me, I don't know. That's why I'm here asking, like, how are my kids? How are my kids and their families and, you know, other members of the community and all these beautiful families that live here on the Heights and from other countries, how are they going to enjoy this space with us? How can we all be included so that we can all enjoy this project together? And I think that's where the kids are coming in and they're like, wait, this is cool, but like we can't use it. You know, and they have this building here, you know, just a quick little sidetrack, but we have this building here, which is fantastic. Look at it, it's absolutely beautiful. But the fees are so high for us to use the gym, to rent out the gymnasium here for a 2-hour basketball game, for me to rent it out, it's $180. Now, I'm trying to start an organization by myself to empower these new American kids in these communities, but in order for me to run a basketball game with these talented kids who are trying to earn college scholarships potentially, we have to pay $180 to go and rent the basketball courts here. So I'm like, this is so great, this is nice, and we would love to utilize this space, but how do we get the kids there? So that's kind of what I wanted kind of just everybody to think about is how do we bring the community together where we can all enjoy this space? Because we are all entitled to use this space. We are all entitled to access of this space. And if there are people in our community that don't have access to this space for whatever reason, then it's our job as community members to alleviate those barriers so that everybody can use this space, especially if it's a giant project that the whole community is paying for and in support of. So I would thank you everybody for listening, but I would just, you know, really like everybody to think about those issues. Thank you very much.
So obviously, we don't have a solution for transportation right at this moment. So, and that's something that the community as a whole would have to work on. And, you know, certainly we work at the Beaver Meadow to try to be inclusive for everybody that's there. So.
Hi, I'm Tanya Rochette. I am a Concord resident, actually East Side. My kids went here before it became a community center. What I'm very loving of your idea is the transportation aspect of it. I really think we need to talk about this project first, because that transportation is not just with Beaver Meadow, it's all over. But I think we're all here today to talk about the Beaver Meadow project and don't want to lose sight of that, but very well said on your message for the city as a whole.
I come at this from someone that participates in large tournaments, and I also sponsor a tournament. My concern, I'm sure it's obvious, but I think that the space has to be big enough to be able to handle 150, that number that you mentioned before, especially when the people are being fed after the golf or after the tournament. So from a participant and from a sponsor's point of view, that would be my concern.
Hi, my name's Sam Evans-Brown. I, for years, was the coach of the cross-country ski team. And since having stepped down, demoted myself as coach because of one key reason is right in front of me right now, the cracker. I've been trying to work on improving the skiing at Beaver Meadow. And the reason is that as the coach of the cross-country ski team, the main thing that I realize is that we don't have a space. The kids stash their skis in the music room. They used to be in the science room, but they got kicked out of the science room. We have trails at Memorial Field that are not ideal for the team. And so after a couple of years, I increasingly started to bring the team to Beaver Meadow because the terrain is better, the skiing is better, the kids have more fun. But to your point, there's no transportation. And so maybe one way to sort of knit together these two ideas is that if we could work towards some sort of rapprochement between the school district and the city at Beaver Meadow we could fold in more access, at least during the winter, to the trails for the kids on the ski team, which is, free, publicly available to anybody who wants to join. And in so doing, hopefully get more community members to use that community facility. And the last thing I'll say, about the clubhouse, I'm not here with my hand out, but I would say it would be nice if we didn't have to stash our skis in the music room. I will tell you that I've frequently had kids show up just a couple minutes late to get their skis out of the room and have found their gear locked in the room because the teacher had to leave, and they show up for the bus with no skis, no boots, no anything because, again, we don't have a space. So I view a lot of potential for this to be a joint facility that both the school district and the city can use, at least in the wintertime. And that's my piece.
Do you have an idea how much square footage you're talking about for storage?
So the ski team has varied over the years. Tends to the number of kids who sign up tends to depend mostly on how good the skiing has been in the previous couple of years. So at its peak, there were 60 skiers or so. Right now, we average around 30. And so 30 ski bags, we're talking, essentially sort of like a locker room. I mean, you can stack 30 ski bags pretty easily in a corner, and we're not talking a lot of square footage. But if there was some sort of multi-purpose space that we could use to, for instance, wax skis, because right now the skiers do that in the basements of other ski families throughout the community. We sort of sprinkle wax stations throughout the community, and frequently, again, the problem is access, right? If one of the families isn't home and you need to wax your skis, how do you get in there to do it the night before a race? So if we were talking about something that could be used for waxing skis as well, it might be on the order of sort of like a 25 by 25 garage or something along those lines that in the summer perhaps could be used to store golf equipment or who knows what. But that's just the off the top of my head what I would suggest.
On top of that, with the lockers that you're talking about that they're using for the golf, would those utilize used for the winter for the skis?
You certainly could. I mean, so skis are going to be longer than golf clubs. So yeah. Yeah. So the longest set of cross-country skis that you'd see would probably be, I don't know, it would be in inches, 207 centimeters, which is a little taller than me. And so if there's something that could store something that tall, it could store ski bags.
Is there a security issue with skis, or it's okay if they're just in the room?
The cross-country ski community is one that historically has been a very safe place. The skiers you go to a race and there's just skis lying all over the place, and there's not a ton that get stolen. I mean, in an ideal world, there'd be a lock on the door, but you wouldn't necessarily need to lock the lockers.
Picture next to you if they're in a rack like that or something. Right next to you, look down.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Are you saying specifically for the high school, or is this cross-country in general?
Well, I'm speaking from the perspective of having coached the high school team, and the sort of needs of the high school team. But I personally would love to see storage of all sorts of skis. And one thing I will say is that so I am also the chair of a all-volunteer nonprofit that's called Ski the Beaver that essentially just tries to raise money to improve skiing at Beaver Meadow. We raised the money for half of the cost of the new groomer that was purchased this past year, and folks perhaps saw out there. And one thing, I have an email address. We have a website and an email address. And I'll tell you, all winter long, I get emails from random folks who want to come and use the free skiing and want to know if there are rentals at Beaver Meadow. And I just respond to every one of them and say, no, but wouldn't that be great?
Hi, thanks. I'm a community member who just wants to follow up as a casual skier and a never golfer, that if facilities were set up for skiers, you would get a huge amount of business in the off season. It's very difficult to rent cross-country skis anywhere. There's one place in the Concord area that mostly does seasonal rentals, and they're often gone. So that's an untapped market. Also, if there were waxing facilities that were open to the public, or even just one of those things you sometimes see at other ski places with like the tools on a chain so you can make adjustments to things, that's like a very low cost community value add. I'd also say that while you're looking at space, if you are sincere in your desire to create access to the facilities for low-income individuals, then conversation should be had at this point in time with the director of Concord City Transit, Terry Page, about how it would be possible to run a bus route, even if it's some sort of limited run. But that's a conversation that should happen now so that later we're not told it can't happen. And if you're thinking about space, if you're creating access for low income, then you need to have equipment. So a place to store free skis, golf clubs that have been donated so that community members who can get themselves there can actually participate, because it's not just about getting a body to the facility. These sports that happen here require equipment of certain sizes.
I got a little general question about skiing, because I live up on Carter Hill. Do you ski up there or not? Or is it not any good? I don't know. I know that I thought they had free skis for use up there.
Yes. Let's grab the mic first. Folks the team did, in fact, used to race at Carter Hill.
Okay.
It's not an ideal venue for a couple of reasons. Mostly the wind. It gets pretty wind scoured very quickly. And the other is there's a lot of what we call side hill, where you're skiing along and like one foot's higher than the other because you're going crossways across. So we have used that less and less. And the other struggle has been that for the orchard, they do their pruning in the winter, and so a lot of times they just sort of drive all over the trails with their equipment. So often we would show up for practice and find that it was unskiable.
Okay.
So that has been a struggle in the past. And personally, I look at the city of Concord, and we have Memorial Field, we had Carter Hill, and we had Beaver Meadow, all of which were being groomed sort of so-so. And in my opinion, it'd be much easier to try to consolidate into the best trail system, which, for my money, as someone who watched kids ski around the hayfield at Memorial Field and just about go out of their minds for a number of years, Beaver Meadow is a much better place to host a ski practice.
Okay, thanks. I didn't mean to take over the meeting.
Hi there, my name is Meredith Cooley. I'm a community member. I just wanted to piggyback off of what Judith said about Terry Page at the, she's the Public Transportation Committee Chair, and she's the director as well of the Concord City Transportation. I was at one of their recent meetings, and they said they are currently gearing up to reroute the bus system, and one of the reasons why is, well, actually I don't know the reasons why, but I know that part of that is looking at the new community center going in at Pennacook, and also the Market Basket going up, the new Market Basket, exit 16, I believe that is, as making sure that those are on the routes. So now is the time to have that subcommittee looking at that. I'm only saying that in terms of a practical timing perspective. And I know that's not the design, but it might be something that the Beaver Meadow Committee looks at. Thank you. Also, it looks like an incredible facility, and I know that just having heard Sam, that there's been a lot of fundraising for the ski programs. And I'm just wondering if there will also be like golf tournaments and fundraising going on at the at the golf club portion to work on the funding this incredible project. Thanks.
Just to clarify, the boards on the side, they're just generic images. They don't represent what the building will look like or anything like that. They're just generic.
Sorry to take the microphone 3 times, but one last thought about, just again, there's an organization called Manchester Moves that reached out to our nonprofit telling us that they had a whole trailer full of skis. And could we partner with them to make those skis available to folks who didn't have the equipment, who wanted to try the sport? And that's something we're looking into next year. We've done a sort of free Learn to Ski Day in partnership with the New England Nordic Ski Association. We're hoping to do more of those. But if there were space to store that equipment on site, there is the potential that donations of equipment, would have a place to live, and you could come grab a pair of skis for the day, maybe even potentially for free, if we do this right. Sorry.
Hi, my name's Kate Kelleher. I'm a member of Beaver Meadow, and I'm a resident here. First of all, I'd like to say I agree with Mindy about the patio. I think it's a highlight of Beaver Meadow. And if you're looking for people to come in just for the food, that's going to add to the numbers of people that are going to be on the patio. If you have a brand new kitchen and you're going to expand the menu, have people come in for the food. I would hate to see it, not built big enough. Also the bar area, when the weather's not nice or it gets cold in the spring or cold in the fall and the golfers want to come in, it would be nice to have a big bar to just be able to come in and get out of the weather. And the third thing is the simulators. I think that's a big hit during the winter for the golfers, and it would be nice if they had their own area. It brings in money for the golf course and, the city of Concord. So that's all.
Probably don't need this because my voice is loud enough. But Andrew, just in myself looking at this, and on this committee, we put a lot of thought, and it's one of the reasons why we're here in the community to hear all these good ideas. And we're taking this serious, and we are listening and taking notes. But one of the comments I have that may help move the discussion along is what type of, I know you've just started looking at, but what type of constraints do you see right out of the gate that might prevent you? I mean, if we had millions and millions of dollars, we could build whatever we wanted. We don't. So we're trying to accommodate as much as we can and satisfy as many things as we can. So do you see any constraints? For an example, can you go, well, look, could there be a foundation in there? Can we go 2 stories? I mean, some of those things, just from the sounds of it and the space needs and the requirements, the patio turns into a deck that overlooks, the top has better viewing for 18, 9, others, and other accommodations that are easy access out to the tent, out to the skating rink, and I think there's going to be multiple buildings, myself, that you can accommodate where you have a ski shack. Maybe it's something similar to what you did at White's Park, where you can rent both skates and cross-country skis and accommodate those things. Because I think you're going to have to, otherwise we're going to have a giant building and with a lot of competing resources at times. So just some thoughts.
Yeah, I think that, certainly the parking lot is a constraint currently. The way it's laid out could be used more efficiently. I think we can pick up quite a few parking spaces there. The site itself is fairly constrained by the golf course. It's a very old golf course. I don't think I would venture to redesign it. I think it works really well. I think the size of the clubhouse will be driven by this exercise, and the programs that we develop. The clubhouse is located on a little bit of a prominent knoll, sort of. It could be, my first knee-jerk reaction was it could be higher. You could lift it up a little bit higher and maybe have a full basement and even a partial walkout. For things like skiing, you could ski right into a ski room, for example, and keep the footprint of the building smaller. You could do a second floor. New Hampshire Golf, is thinking about taking space there, and that could be part of a partial second floor, as well as other administrative functions. But and that would certainly give the clubhouse a little more presence on the site that it really desperately needs. But other than that, I think the program's really going to tell us what what the footprint will be and whether it's one story with a full basement or partial basement or even a partial or full second floor.
Anybody else? Anybody else? Oh, there's an arm here.
I was interested by the comment that when you come up Beaver Meadow Street, that the first thing that you see is the tent. And I'm wondering, I don't have any clue about moving the clubhouse, but if the clubhouse was the first thing that you saw coming up the street, is that going to help with traffic and is that site where the tent is suitable for where the clubhouse would be?
That's one of the things we're analyzing right now is the view corridor coming in and what you see. The thing about the tent location is it's the low spot on the site. But depending on how the building works, it might be able to overcome that. But those are things that we're analyzing.
Yeah, I just had a comment about the winter simulators. I play year-round, and the simulators seem like an amazing revenue generator for the club and for the city. I was just wondering if there was any way to get multiple simulators in there. They seem to be, there's 2 simulators in there right now, and they seem to be booked all winter long, all the way from early November all the way through March, and at $40 an hour, it seems like it's a no-brainer. If you just had a little bit more room to get a couple more, 2 or 3 more simulators in there, it's just a huge revenue generator for the city.
Thank you. Anybody else? Oh, up here. Oh, and back.
Hi, I'm Kate Nato, and I'm here representing New Hampshire Saves through Liberty and Unitil. And I heard about the project, and I just wanted to come today to introduce myself and be a resource for you guys during the design for energy efficiency and see how we can capture any incentives or rebates for the project to help with funding. So I have a couple of folders and some information. I can try and catch up with you guys before I head out.
Anybody else? Right here.
So I'm Tom Varela. Full disclosure, I do work at Beaver Meadow. But I had a question, just is it just the clubhouse, or are we looking at site renovation as well? So the maintenance buildings and things like that, or are they part of the scope of the project?
I think this is just me, but I would think we'd be looking at all of that as part of a master plan. Whether it can't be incorporated within the budget initially, it might be something that we suggest to do for the future or something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you have a different opinion about that.
I mean, there could be a couple of phases to this. When you start looking at the design of the entire property, you look at the location of the clubhouse, you look at the extension of the parking. Obviously, parking is an issue, and the location of where the maintenance facilities are. So there may be something that we have, maybe a phase 1 and then a phase 2, maybe a phase 3, depending on what comes out of the design as they come through it, and where the funding ends up being. So there could be multiple pieces to it over a long period of time.
Yeah. Okay. The other comment I had was I agree with a lot of the other comments about having a nicer, more of a destination restaurant that's there. With all due respect to the Aces crew and the restaurant that's there today, I think it would be a good revenue generator to have a more of a destination restaurant, like, where people would say, hey, let's go to the Beaver for dinner. I don't think that's the case, as somebody mentioned earlier. So keeping that in mind, to have a nicer restaurant that actually people would, go out just to go to dinner. And then one other comment, I know people were talking about the cross-country skiing, and I've heard from some of the staff there, and maybe somebody can address it, but I guess they used to have ski rentals at Beaver Meadow years ago. I'm not sure why that went away. I think there might be some reasons, and somebody might be able to shed some light on why they discontinued having that. And also, that may be an opportunity to have a tenant in there, maybe one of the ski shops that come into a satellite location to manage that, and be a way of generating some revenue as well.
Certainly as part of the overall design and the discussion about skiing, that would be a conversation that we would end up having.
I think at this day and age, my name is Lynn Woodard. I'm also a member of Beaver and live here in Concord. In this day and age, I think whenever the city embarks upon a project, it would behoove them to consider energy efficiency and actually be off the grid if possible. I know at Beaver, if you're talking about this facility, it's going to use a lot of energy. Pretty much we're going to all electric carts if we haven't already, except on occasion. Those have to be recharged all the time. So if we could combine solar, geothermal, and battery storage in the initial stages of this so that it could be energy efficient and off the grid, with the price of energy going up, as I know from my residential facility in the last few months, I think it would be a good thing to certainly take a look at it and see what the price cut is.
Absolutely. That's why we have the best design team in the state here working with us to try to help us move in that direction.
Hi, my name's Linda Matledge. I've lived in Concord since 1984. I've been golfing at the Beaver since 1996. I was just wondering if you could speak to, when you're talking about constraints, any conservation easements, any kinds of environmental constraints that you have to work within so that people can understand those kinds of issues.
That's also part of the stage that we're in right now, where we're doing the analysis of that, and that's something that our civil engineers starting to look into. So I don't have anything to report right now.
Okay, so my name is Chelsea Toner, by the way. I'm a freshman at Concord High School. And I was just wondering, like, for the people who, like, don't play golf and, like, don't ski and stuff like that, like, they don't have any interest in it, like, and they're paying, like, they're putting their money toward it, like, what do they get out of it?
Certainly, one of the things we talked about earlier is trying to have some space available for people to use, like what is going on here at the community center at low cost. The fee committee just went through a fee reduction phase to try to make the space much more accessible, and that was at the direction of the city council. Certainly, I think that the city council would be looking at doing something similar here too. So you have that in order to use some of the space at the facility. Certainly, people can come and enjoy the facility. There's going to be a patio out we're hoping to have a patio out in the clubhouse so people can go out and enjoy the patio. There are restaurant facilities. We're planning on restaurant facilities, so hopefully things like that people will be able to go out and use. There's cross-country skiing. There's snowshoeing, things like that. In the wintertime, there's the ice skating that is available. So there's a lot of things that people still will be able to use in the facility and in the grounds of Beaver Meadow kind of year-round. So.
Good morning. So you go to Concord High School? You're a freshman at Concord High? Yeah. I don't go there, but I pay taxes, so you can. I don't play pickleball, but I'm more than pleased that I helped support pickleball in the city with my taxes. The library I use very, very infrequently, but I'm more than happy to pay my taxes for the library. I don't play soccer. I don't use Memorial Field, but I'm more than happy to pay taxes so that people can utilize those. That's part of living in a city and in a community, that our taxes go not only for police, which I hope I don't have to use, and fire, but as a community and as a citizen, I understand why I pay taxes is for the benefit of everybody in the city, just not for me. And I think that's one of the wonderful things about the city of Concord, that as long as I've lived here for 50 years, that there's been that spirit and a uniformity of people understanding that everybody has different needs and wants, and we all support those. So that's, I hope you understand where I'm coming from. The golf course not everybody uses, but there are a lot. Again, soccer fields not everybody uses, but there's people who use a soccer field. Same thing with the library, etc.
I was simply going to ask if Phil would explain and talk about the number of tournaments that we have at the golf course for nonprofit organizations that support our community.
Sure, yeah. So at Beaver Meadow, we do have, I'm going to estimate off the top of my head, 15 to 20 local charity events, charitable outings that raise hundreds of thousands of dollars for our local communities. And I can get you, I have that number, and I can certainly get it to everybody if they'd like it.
Brian, real quick, can you go into some of the financials of the project, a rough idea? And can you talk about whether or not, I think there was a question over here about fundraising. Are you going to do the same thing you did with the lodge, where you had like the bank sponsor and all the bricks and things like that? Can you talk about that?
We have not gotten to that part of discussion of having that type of fundraising. We've talked about some of the grant opportunities. We've talked about some of the energy efficiency grants that might be available out there. We've talked about some land water conservation fund grants that might be available out there, and any other grants that we're looking for. So there's still a lot of things that would be available and that we still need to talk about to discuss it. So, pardon? I do not have a rough cost for you. You can look in the capital budget from last year and see what was projected.
Thank you. My name is Sandra Bryce Hawkins. I'm the city councilor from Ward 10. And I had a couple of general questions about the funding for this. And as we're here at the listening session, and to former councilor Mark Cohen's comments, it's come up several times around fundraising for different projects in the city. So we have a group fundraising in White Park for an accessible playground, and the city's helping fund part of that. Ski the Beeve has fundraised for the groomer at Beaver Meadow. I'm not aware of a Friends of Beaver Meadow golf course that is doing fundraising for the clubhouse, and I'd like to know whether or not that is on the horizon, especially as other projects have been asked to do that. And then the second piece of that is if we're going to talk about how people pay taxpayers pay in, so there are community services. I think it is really important to some of the questions that came up earlier, that as a community we figure out those fees, that accessibility, and that transportation as part of a whole package, because we can't build something that we ask taxpayers to pay for that is mostly accessible to those who have transportation, who can pay to use that facility for something that other community members and taxpayers don't have access to. So those are the questions I came here today. I really appreciate having this large forum, and I'm so glad to see so many people out here today.
I've been a member of many different kinds of clubs, whether it be yacht clubs, ski clubs, in this case a golf club. Clubs are a group of people with like-minded interests, and this is a golf club. that is also doubling and tripling up as other things. So on the site, I think you can fit them all in. But for me, the orientation of the site is the most important, because when I'm at my club, I enjoy sitting on the patio looking at the players. I enjoy to have, like Concord Country Club, they have a grill. It's a nice grill, but they have the patio that overlooks the course, and you can sit out there. And so the orientation of this clubhouse now excludes the 10th green, and they did improvements so you can see the people on the 18th green. But to me, a club is where I go before and after a round of golf and meet with my friends. And we have a lot of discussions, and we meet up with other friends. And to me, the orientation of that clubhouse, if it can incorporate more of the golf course and put those outdoor facilities and a nice grill, that satisfies all of my idea of what a club is.
Anybody else? Come on, I got 45 minutes to fill. Here we go, here we go.
I just wanted to say, in reference to the taxes going to public facilities that the entire community uses, when you referenced a public library, we do know that our libraries are, the attempt is made to have them as accessible as possible to the entire community, as well as these athletic fields. It's been stated multiple times that there is a lack of access to the Beaver Meadow Golf Course. So for me as a taxpayer, I do want to fund things that are holistically, a positive impact on the community as a whole. I think the conflation between the examples that you gave and the golf course is an inaccurate one. Thank you.
Thanks. I feel confused, and I feel like I hear other people's confusion. So there's the group of people who are like, it's a club, and we pay for a club, and we want it to serve a certain purpose, which makes perfect sense to me. And then there are the folks who are talking about taxpayer dollars and want it to serve the community, as all facilities that my taxpayer dollars go to, as to your point. But we're not getting answers to like the question that I think is leading to all of these questions. So if this is not the time and space to talk about the funding, I'm hoping the city councilors could let us know, when will that conversation happen? Because the questions are coming from these like two different ideas of how this project is happening. And I don't know the answer, and I'd like to, because I don't want to derail the awesome community visioning like we did around, I'm blanking on the space that's near Everett Arena. What is that park? Kiwanis, right? That was such an amazing visioning session, and we were all just throwing out all of our ideas. This feels different because I think there's confusion. So I'm just hoping that maybe somebody could say, we're not going to answer these questions today. This is when you should come and ask these questions. This is when you'll get this information, because I feel like that's what's underlying some of this.
So I don't want to speak for the city councilors or the chair of the advisory committee. However, this meeting really is a visioning meeting for what folks really want to see as the design moves forward in this facility. From that process, there's going to be a recommendation and work done with the ad hoc committee, and then a recommendation will be made to the city council for a facility and what a design would look like, which will also include what funding would be needed in order to develop that. The city council will take a look at that funding, and they'll say, yeah, we like that, or no, we don't like that, and then they'll start to dissect, and they'll say, we can support that, or no, go back and do some more work. So those kind of things happen, much like it did with the community center when the community center was being reconstructed. When the city council comes to a point where they say, okay, we're at a point now where we think that we want to support the funding of this facility, and then it gets put on the city council agenda for a public hearing. It's really at that point where folks can come and talk about that piece. Doesn't mean that you can't talk about it in the meantime, and let your thoughts be known. But this meeting here right now, it really is about visioning to help these guys with designing this facility, to help these folks help make the decisions for what really needs to go into that facility. Yes, is it a golf course? Yes, it is. I mean, that's a big piece of it. That's where the majority of the dollars flow in from all the folks that come in and play. But there's a lot more to it than that. In the wintertime, all the cross-country skiing that goes on, all of the snowshoeing, there's no money that comes in from all of that, but that's an important, very important part of that facility. Any of the ice skating that goes on, that's a very important part of the facility, except for this year, there wasn't much ice. But all of those things, and what else can be expanded upon, and what else in the building can be expanded upon for more community use. There's more that can be done in that facility, and I think that's what this is. It's visioning for these folks to try to help bring that design to life so that these folks can make a recommendation to the city council. When you start talking about money, it's when the city council has to make that decision, and then everybody needs to let the city council know if they support it or not. That's what public hearings there are for. So, thank you.
So just as a follow-up to that, this is an appropriate time for folks who think maybe it will come from tax dollars to say the things that they really want, not just to treat it as a conversation about a dues-paying golf course, right? I mean, if there's a possibility that it will be funded, is this the time and space to talk about what taxpayers want?
This is really the time and space to say, we want 3 rooms for, to be able to have some community use. We want 5 simulator rooms. We want a big restaurant with, dining. That's kind of what we're looking for here, to say, I don't like this facility. That's probably at the meeting with city council. I don't want to pay for it. That's at the meeting with city council. These guys, we're paying them to design it, and that's what we're paying them to do. The council already told us that there's some funding to do that. So, right.
I guess the thing is, it's a public golf course. We're trying to make it useful for as much as the public as possible through different activities and things. So that's what we want to hear.
Thank you.
So.
I do want to thank the students from Concord High for coming and speaking up. I think that's a big thing for you all to be here, to take the time and to be interested and to ask the questions and to learn more about how the city works. So I think that's fantastic. But my question is, and I know there's a lot of uncertainty and you never can anticipate everything with precision, but are you thinking that this would be breaking ground like in the fall, in a year, in 2 years? Do you have a sense of that?
It's probably going to be on a timing sequence where it's affecting golf play the least as much as possible. So, and from there, we don't know if it's this year or the next. It all depends on the funding, but it depends on the exploration.
Thank you.
So, and we don't want to affect cross-country skiing in the wintertime either, but we'll have to play that by ear, and that's why Milestone's here to hear all that.
Gives you a small window, maybe the month of March.
Again, it gets used a lot.
I fully support everybody's comments on solar, and the Exit 17 liquor store has a huge panel of solar up there. They may be one to do a study on and see how much money they're saving. They do not have a battery backup, so I think that would be a big benefit. And also, to New Hampshire Saves, I own the Batteries Plus. I'd be happy to work with you and give huge discounts to anything on the project.
Thank you. I don't want to sway anybody's opinion on anything. I just want you to keep in mind it's a municipal property. We want this to be handicap accessible. And we want it to be accessible for a number of reasons. One of them, it is the ward house for our elections, and we have people from all over Ward 3 that come here, and we need to have better handicap parking for them, which they do not have today. It is a challenge to get into the tent for voting because they are going across platforms that move. And additionally, the game of golf is one of the most accessible sports for those people that have mobility challenges because it is adaptable. And as a golf course in general, we want to keep that in mind because that is the way that we're going with our golf course to be more accessible for people in the community because it is a lifelong sport that you can play really up into your 90s, as we now know, because we have players in their 90s and beyond. And I want just people to be aware that the building itself needs to accommodate all ages. Thank you. And abilities.
Anybody else?
I think one of the things that I notice about Beaver Meadow is it's a community center. It's a community center for young people. You see tons of young kids playing golf there now. It's a community center for seniors. That's the major makeup of the membership. It's senior women. There's just a ton of community activities that go on when we have unfortunate deaths in the community. We can hold a function at the tent and have parking for people. And so you see a lot of things that Beaver Meadow does that's just not golf related. But it is a place for seniors and young people to go. And because it is accessible and because it is affordable, because golf on the other end, like the Lake Sunapees and Concords of the world, is very expensive. But Beaver Meadow allows many, many more people to get into golf. So I would just like to add that.
Beaver Meadow is one of the only city facilities that we actively encourage people from outside of the city to come. We don't give out library cards to residents of other communities. And when I was taking my daughter to city pools, we had to show proof of residency so that our city pools were used for city residents. But this is the consideration that you should have is make it beautiful. Make it really a destination place for golf. There's a lot of people that don't belong to golf courses. They're not members, and they seek out different courses to play. And I've only had one instance where I knew a group of guys actually came to Beaver Meadow as a destination. The golf course really sells itself. It's a terrific golf course, especially the back nine is very challenging. So it's a good day of golf. You're cutting down too many trees. Stop cutting trees, but that make it beautiful so that people. I kind of think the clubhouse was probably the lowest point of a golf experience if you're coming from another place. So it really needs to be attractive, and that will produce more revenues from non-residents. And maybe someday it can run in the black.
Thanks, those are good comments. How do you guys feel about doing your dotocracy right now? Want to do that? So up on the screen, we have a survey link at SurveyMonkey. And this will also be, the link will also be on the Beaver Meadow Golf Course website, so you can go there and find it. And there's some more specific questions on different parts of the building that you can answer, and you can leave any comment you want on that site. And we'll probably have that up for 10 days to 2 weeks, something like that. And if you could do the dotocracy on your way out, that would also be helpful so we know the different functions that you're kind of looking for and what we want to stress in the building. And if anybody has any other comments, somebody wants the lights turned on.
We'll put that survey on the Facebook page.
It'll be on the Beaver Meadow website. Thank you all very much for coming. We really appreciate all your comments. This has been very helpful for us. Thank you.